I've just found that because I'm not using this stand hanging from the roof or high above on the windscreen, that this slides down and drop the phone. But we'll get cracking again anyway. It's I don't like anything that has like a suction cap, because I've never had anything that actually worked, but this one is as solid as anything. But because we had those bumps, so if my phone drops again, this is all over and I will have to do it from the windscreen. Now, when you've got a brand new car, you don't want to rev the crap out of it. I can't remember how many thousand Ks. You've just got to take it easy and not rev the crap out of it. I always thought it was don't drive over 90 Ks an hour, but what it is don't be revving it, sort of picking up speed quickly and revving the bag out of it. Now, we're on a newly sealed, smooth as anything road. That was the electric window going up, and it couldn't be more smooth and lovely. So I'm only going to do about 15 minutes worth of driving, but what I have found when I took it for a drive around yesterday was that the really flat road bumps or speed humps are fine. The ones that are made out of rubber, where the ones that are a little bit more substantial you feel it, but still, just like any other ute that I've ever had anything to do with, except for the new Ford Ranger. The new Ford Ranger to travel in is like a luxury car as far as I'm concerned, but then I haven't been off-road in that anyway. But this is a girly version of a review, because I watched so many reviews before buying the Great Wall Steed 4x2, and nothing really covered, just general driving around. I needed a ute just so that I could fit things in the back, and I do have dogs, but gear change is really smooth. It's nice and quiet in the cabin. Noise, things like that, you can't really generally pick up on smartphone videoing, but it's just really quiet. And I can honestly say the 2018 RAV4 is definitely no more comfortable. This actually feels a bit more comfortable, and this feels more connected to the road than the RAV4 did. The RAV4's obviously got a lot more safety features, but this has sensors around the car to let you know if you're coming close to anything anyway. Just the RAV has sat nav, where I did buy a reversing camera from Repco, and it's really clear. I can see behind me with no problems. So this isn't a rough road, it's just really uneven. Okay, I've just gone back to second. So this is a really small section of road where you have to drive exceptionally slowly. I think it's something like maybe 20 Ks, I'm not sure. But it has speed humps. So you can feel, I know that that's picking up on the camera. You can feel that it's not a smooth ride with great suspension, but it's not terrible. Like, it's really, really perfectly fine. I'm staying in second gear because I'm not going to go over 20 k's, even though I did see it was 40. This just should not be a 40k zone because there's kids and dogs and people, elderly, people walking, riding their bikes. This dip up ahead has been here forever. And I remember, yeah, that's worse in a Peugeot 206. And that's kind of what this feels like. Just a little bit rough, but not uncomfortable by any means. The seats are comfortable. And I thought there were speed humps here, but there aren't. So I'm doing like 25 k's. The visibility out of this car is wonderful. Like, there is just absolutely nothing blocking your view in any direction. Yeah, see, third doesn't feel right. So I'm best to drop down to 20 k's. So that I'm not over revving. Now that so that's third gear and 40 k's. I can see the camera shake, so it's probably not going to make for a very good video. And I do wonder if it'd be any different if the mount was hanging from the windscreen. One of the loudest indicators I've ever experienced. I can honestly say I don't like the sound of it revving, and I just have to get used to it because the Audi, as old as it is, with an automatic transmission, you just don't feel any changes at all. There's just, it's smooth, just no gear change, you don't feel it. Second gear. all that can be heard clearly on the video. So that's first gear. See, going at that pace and revving it, having to go up to second gear just in that short section. Okay, I went up to third too soon. So at 40 k's in third gear along the flat. I do expect the camera to drop again because of the fitting. Because this is a bumpier ride up this way. So the only speed bumps that I can think of, other than these ones at the top of the hill, are in the supermarket car park. Now this really is rough road, even though it's main streets. So I'm in third gear now, and that's just under 60 k's. Going down to second, not ideal at all. So it just shows that when it's pushing, it's noisy, basically. Cruising along, it's fine. To me, it's almost as loud as a diesel. Back to second, just because this is somewhere to drive slow. Around here there's always dogs, some not on lead around here. So in third gear doing 40, these are just the lightest of speed bumps. They are rubber. These ones are bitumen, barely any difference. That was worse than a speed bump. So back to first. So on doing that little turn, I am not even going to risk it. I'll just go back to first for this. Because I have a feeling it would have spun its wheels doing that little turn, where that wouldn't happen in my Audi at all. So that's first. Second, hitting up 30 k's. That's just under 40 k's. They're the rubber speed humps. this is a really rough road. I'm thinking the camera mount is too rigid because it absolutely has no cushioning, nothing like that. They retail for $80. It's up to 3rd and 40 Ks. Still in 3rd, and it's not running away down the hill, and it's quite steep. Although steep's not the real word for it. But that's in 30, and it's not, I'm not having to put the brakes on, it's just kind of holding it at 50 without over revving. And it's creeping up towards 60, but okay, now back to 45. Still in 3rd. And doing 40 Ks just because. I think this is a 50 zone, but it's still a school zone. It certainly feels the bumps when the, not so much potholes, but the real wide, what do you call them, dents in the road, like dips, and it's all tarred, but they're really big dips in the road. It's great to see lots of people around at the moment. People are generally becoming more diligent in protecting themselves from the chance of being infected with any viruses. One in particular that I'm not going to name because I am going to put this review on YouTube. But things were very, very quiet and not much happening. A couple of weeks ago it had quietened down a bit, but people sort of get themselves together and figure out ways to protect themselves. The car is silent. I'm in 1st. It's just completely silent apart from the indicator. So this is the hill that I found yesterday. You just would not bother overtaking anyone because you're revving the crap out of the car. It's quite a steep hill, but in my Peugeot 206 and my 19-year-old Audi that's automatic, probably 6-speed, they plow up this hill without any hassles whatsoever. But in this vehicle, I'm doing 55 and I'm in 3rd gear, If I go a little bit faster and hook it into fourth gear, I'm only going to have to drop back because it doesn't have the oomph. It's a 4-cylinder petrol, I think 2.0 litre, but it doesn't have the power to keep up the speed going up this hill. So if I kick it, I'm going to just pick up speed and kick it into fourth gear. And that's struggling without, it dropped back from 80 Ks, that's now 70. And I'm struggling, it's only now picking up to 80 again, but it's no longer as steep as what it was just back there. So this was the clincher for me. I realized that this doesn't have, because it's heavier than the Peugeot 206, of course, it does not have the pick up and go for a steep hill. But that overtaking lane only lasts a moment anyway, and you've got to be in a pretty big hurry or behind someone going incredibly slow to even bother. So that's 75 Ks and we're coming back to relatively flat again. And that's the only issue I have with this vehicle. I don't mind that it's a little bit rough because it's not too rough. I would like to be able to sit a little bit lower in this seat, but it won't go any lower than this, but that's okay because it sits as high. My only comparable is the 2018 RAV4. I'm still in fourth gear. And now we're doing 80, so I'll hit fifth. I took it for a good long run yesterday for its first run-in. But this is an 80k zone. But I am in fifth. Don't have to put the brakes on. It's not running away so that I have to put the brakes on. It's staying on 80 in fifth gear. The seat is really, really comfortable. I know the front passenger seat is exactly the same, only it's not electric for back adjustment. That was one thing that I found. And but even though I can see, I'm just going to turn around, even though I can see that the camera is really vibrating and moving, the ride is not that rough. And this is a really big, that was a big drop off the bitumen, and I know that I'm gonna spin out here because the gravel's really loose. Well, I didn't. Okay, that came off that really rocky dirt onto that really big lip on the bitumen perfectly fine. I thought that was going to be a really rough return to the road. Okay, I'm now in fifth gear doing 80. And there's really nothing wrong with the ride at all. Obviously, the tub or the back is empty. There is no noise from the tub at all. A lot of reviews said that it was noisy in the back if it didn't have a load. That's not the case here at all. Now, I'm still doing 80. I'm going to drop back to fourth and just slow it down a little bit so that I'm not revving the crap. Okay, that's a really nice smooth transition, and that's fourth gear going up a decent incline at 80 Ks. And the speed limit's 80, so there's no point me revving it anymore. I'll get to the top of this little incline and I can go into fifth without any problems. So I'm still doing 80 and in fifth gear. there is really nothing wrong with this vehicle. I've got a lot to compare it to. It definitely doesn't have the rocket takeoff going up a hill that the Audi and the Peugeot 206 and even my what was a Ford Laser S, it was a 1990, had so much power. I bought the bigger motor in 1990 and that car used to just, you could overtake in a blink. Like it felt so safe because the moment you overtook, you had the speed immediately. It wasn't sluggish, and I find that with the Peugeot 206 and even the 19-year-old Audi. The Audi that I had prior to that was the same. It was also an A4, and it wasn't as old as what I've been driving over the last 2 years, but the pickup, they just don't lose the pickup, and it was an automatic as well. But I didn't really want an automatic. I've had to put a new transmission into the Audi a few years ago, and it didn't even last 2 years, but the mechanic was a turd. He didn't tell me that he put it all together with second-hand parts. Otherwise I would have just given up the goat, because it cost me, I think, nearly $2,000 for that transmission, and that was back in maybe 2007, 2008. So 12 years ago, so I've hit 50. I will go back to third, because I like the idea of not having to put the brakes on. Now that's holding, yeah, that's creeping up to 60 almost. So if I go back to third, okay, I'm in third and she's holding at 50 k's going down this steep hill. I've just come into fourth to do 60, just there, almost 60. I am going to try and drive this car in really thoughtfully. I'm not in a hurry to go anywhere, so I may as well just drive it nicely, but I will do this really horrible intersection up here, not the roundabout, but further on. Roundabouts are a little bit too unpredictable for me. People sometimes aren't watching what they're doing. So in second gear, this is already an incline. I'll see what it does in third gear going up this steep section. There's not enough room for run up, and I feel like I would just drop it back and come up here slower. That's 50 k's, although it's not real. It doesn't feel like it's struggling at all. But there's usually cars parked there, and this is really poor vision, but that came out of that steep intersection just fine. Now I don't want this to be a very long video, but I will do the straight at the airport, just because it is a 90k zone. If you're one of those people who let things bug you, the indicator would be annoying to those types. I'm gonna block it out from this point on because it's loud and annoying. There's the newer version of my Audi. Such a beautiful looking car. See, I felt the urge to go into fourth gear there, doing 60, or actually 55. See, all the brand new cars that were around the 20k mark were far too small for me and what I need to use it for. Generally no boot, too small inside. Just going back to third gear as we do the turn, that was at 40 k's. So just hitting up 60 and into fourth gear. This is really rough bit of road. That was just under 60. So now that's 60 and now 80 up to fifth gear. And for such a busy main road, it is a little bit rough. But that's 90 k's in fifth gear. I don't really feel like I need sixth gear at all. Actually, I don't. If I went up to sixth gear, I'd have to pull it back. If I was going to go over 100, I'd have to pull it back. I'll say that again. If I was in sixth gear, but only doing 90 to 100, I'd have to drop it back to fifth gear anyway. So what's the point of sixth gear when the speed limit's 90 and then the maximum speed limit on our highways is 100, and there's only certain spots around the country on freeways where you can do 110. So we're not missing sixth gear. Now I've come back to 80. Yeah, see, that's not over revving. Fourth gear doing 80 on the flat. So now 70. Still don't need to go back to third. Still doing 70. Still 70, still in fourth gear, and not labouring so I don't have to drop back to third gear. Still fine in fourth gear. If the speed limit was more than 70, I'd kick it up to fifth gear now, but I'm right on 70 k's. I'm a bit interested to see how rough the video looks, because I am watching it. She just looks rough. I'm not kidding. The Peugeot 206, with whatever was running it, whether it was 1.8 or a 2.0, sounded so much the same. It's got really good takeoff in first and second gear from stop. You can't ask for more than that. You can't, you don't want a car that's sluggish coming out of an intersection. You can end up with someone up your backside, or you can be not back on the road with oncoming traffic in time and really cause problems. So I swear, honestly, for under 20k, brand new, with the space of a tub or ute. Inside is so roomy. Even if you're sitting in the back and had to bring the seats forward a little bit, it's roomy. I have to get a canopy built because I do need the undercover for the ute part of it, but this is a good little car.